Hey everyone, let's jump into a really special story today. We're calling it The Promise of the Stars. It's an amazing story, all about trust, about waiting, and about a promise so big it felt totally impossible. Ready? Let's go. So, what's the story all about? Well, at its very core, it's about a promise. And I'm not talking about a small, everyday kind of promise. This was a huge, life-changing promise that was meant to shape the future for a whole lot of people. And here's where things get really interesting. What do you do when someone makes you a promise that sounds absolutely wonderful, but everything you can see and everything you know tells you there's just no way it can happen? That's the big question we're diving into. So, to get this impossible promise, we first have to meet the couple at the very heart of our story. All right, so let's meet Abraham and his wife Sarah. These two were just wonderful people who loved each other so much. But there was a quiet sadness in their lives. See, more than anything else in the world, they wanted to have a child, but they just didn't have one. And then, one day, everything changed. God spoke to Abraham and gave him a pretty shocking instruction. I want you to leave your home, leave everything you know, and go to a brand new land. And I will take care of you. Wow. Can you even imagine that? It took so much trust, but you know what? Abraham did it. And because Abraham took that huge leap of faith, he received the incredible, star-filled promise we've been talking about. And the promise? It was just massive. God told Abraham, you are going to have a big family, so big in fact that your family will be like the stars in the sky. Just think about that. Look up at the night sky on a clear night and imagine being told your family would one day be that huge. It's unbelievable. This really lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows the giant gap between the promise and what was really happening. On one side, you have this promise of a family as big as the stars. And on the other side, well, you have Abraham and Sarah, who were now getting really old and still didn't have even one baby. So, how could this ever come true? So, you might be wondering, how did Sarah react when she heard this crazy-sounding promise was finally about to happen? Well, her reaction might actually surprise you. After waiting for so many years, the news came directly to Sarah herself. God told her that she was finally going to have a baby. And her first reaction, well, she laughed. But it wasn't really a happy laugh, not at first anyway. It was more of a, yeah, right, kind of laugh. She thought to herself, are you kidding me? I'm way too old to have a baby. The idea just seemed so silly, so impossible, that laughing was all she could do. But that laugh, the one that came from disbelief, it was about to turn into a laugh of pure, unbelievable joy. This is where the impossible starts to happen. Because, and this is the best part, despite how old they were, and even despite Sarah's own doubts, God kept his promise. Just like he said, Sarah and Abraham had a baby boy. The impossible thing, it actually happened. And you know what name they gave him? Isaac. Which is just perfect because the name Isaac actually means laughter. It's this beautiful reminder of Sarah's surprised laugh and, of course, all the happy laughter that came after. But wait, the story doesn't quite end there with the happy baby. Years later, Abraham's faith was going to face one last and really hard test. This was a moment that would show how deep his trust in God really was. Okay, so this next part of the story can be a little tough to hear, so let's walk through it together. First, God tested Abraham's trust by asking him to do something that just seemed unimaginable. Second, Abraham, showing just how much he trusted, listened and was ready to obey. But third,
And this is the most important part of all. God stepped in. He stopped Abraham and made sure Isaac was completely safe. This test was never, ever about hurting anyone. It was all about trust.
So, this incredibly difficult moment, what was it all for? Well, it showed that Abraham's faith was real. He didn't just trust God when things were good. He trusted God completely, even when it was the hardest thing to do and he couldn't possibly understand why.
And that's what this whole journey, from all the waiting to the surprise laughter to that final tough test, really leaves us with. It makes you think, doesn't it? What does it really mean to trust a promise, especially when that promise seems totally, completely, and impossibly out of reach?